Well, greetings. So, have a sip of the tea out of the Wayward Realms mug that I acquired. I don't know if I acquired that the last time I was on, but actually, speaking of the Wayward Realms, there is a possibility. I am attempting to make contact with the devs to maybe have them on, and maybe I'll try and get Bill and Bariax on for that as well. But we shall see. That is only merely me making the effort. I've not actually heard back, or don't know if I will. But welcome, yes, to your midweek fantasy fix. We're talking castles and crusades today. Thank you all for joining me. Apologies for the delay. Our guest star, so to speak, is running a tad late, so I was just trying to get a little bit of length onto the stream for you. Right, who have we got? We've got Ultra in the chat. Hello, Ultra. Jeff from Denkar. Greetings indeed. Jack McCarthy, good name, sir. Amazing Gaming Productions, you are back again. I did see what you were posting about, by the way, AGP, in terms of your AI experiments. But I was at work at the time, so a lot of my delays, a lot of my not getting things done can be blamed on work. Where have we got here? We got Savo Feifel. Hello, Feifel. I need to have a chat with you at some point about Space Romans again. Let's see. We got Dean Hill-Jowett. Hello, sir. I hope your recovery is going well after your surgery. Noble Shield, of course. Yes, the Jackpack has arisen. Indeed, it has. Samuel Roberts. Hello. Good to see you once more, sir. Welcome all. Yes. Hello. The mod wife is in the house. Say hello, mod wife. She just hello. Yes. She gave me a blank look. I think I startled her. But Joe, behave yourselves. She is ruling the roost this evening, as she always does. Right. Well, I'm not going to beat around the bush. The main guest, Stephen Chenault, is still not here. So I'm going to bring in someone. Firstly, I'm going to bring in the man with the magnificent beard, because he is very kindly joined in for this stream today. He has many dashes. It's Cerulean.
Greetings, Jack. Hello, everybody.
How have you been, my friend? You've been having a bit of a rough time of it.
Yeah, a little bit of a rough patch. You're not wrong. My lady did forthwith bangeth her knee on the deck out back to a great degree. I did put out the call for good healing vibes and prayers, and somehow we went from fractured kneecap back to tissue damage. So,
well, there you go. The power of the human consciousness / universe / God / spirituality.
I will take it all. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for coming on, especially with such short notice and with everything going on your end of things. Would you like me to fix the dashes under you?
I have dashes.
You have many dashes.
Yes, fix those dashes, please, sir.
I'll fix those in a mo. I've been introduced to someone today that I can't believe I haven't spoken to before, because he's very much my kind of chap. Let's bring him in. Let's bring in Realm Builder guy. Hello, sir.
How's it going?
Let's do a bit of a shufti. There we are. Hello, sir.
Realm Builder.
Welcome.
Howdy.
To the library. This is the one night you may speak in the library. Talk amongst yourselves while I fix. Geez, that's a lot of dashes.
No idea what happened.
Seems like just yesterday, Cerulean and I were having dinner at GaryCon. Then he gave us a moonlight Gygaxian tour of Lake Geneva, which was pretty awesome. With as much as we could see in the mostly dark, but Streetlight definitely gave us a look at most of the major high points.
So you
enjoyed
in it. The heart of TTRPG-dom.
Yes.
For a while there. How was that? So I'm not really a convention guy. I went to one once when I was like a teenager, but I tend to avoid crowds because they aggravate me. I don't mean it, well, yes, in an anxiety way, but also in a I will hurt the next person to cut me off way. So was it crowded? How many people were there?
Well, at moments, depending on what you're trying to walk up on and view that 200 people are, it might seem crowded, but not that.
It was okay.
It's you can walk around. There's the momentary holdups of someone's in front of me and won't take a step are pretty few and far between. I'd say in the course of a 4-day weekend. I don't advise you to ever go to Gen Con, ever.
Isn't that the one that scrapped Gygax's name?
All the people are like this.
Oh,
like
right.
This.
But no,
It's up to 60,000.
No.
Gary Con's like 4.
No.
A little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's between Gary Con, Gamehole Con, and of course Arnicon, which is very like small and cool because of that. It was okay. Gary Con would be the biggest of those.
I think Gamehole would be.
Really? The Gamehole
Yeah.
didn't feel as big. Probably
Gamehole
because
cracked.
of the way it's set up.
I haven't been there, but Gamehole cracked 10,000 this last time. I believe.
Oh, really? So
Uh-huh.
it didn't feel like 10,000. Like Gary Con, you felt
It's a bigger
the
space.
people.
It's a bigger space. Yeah,
but
for
yeah.
sure.
I'm
Gary
having
Con,
to
of course,
resist
being
making
in
a
the.
lot of inappropriate jokes.
What's that?
I'm having to resist making a lot of inappropriate jokes. How do I sound, by the way, chat? My machine keeps editing my microphone settings for me. So hopefully I'm not just distantly quiet.
Here's a sound for everyone.
Ooh.
Mm,
Ooh.
love it.
Oh, it's a monster. I thought it was a beer. Never mind.
Yeah.
Wait, no, you're not allowed to drink on my... Am I allowed to show alcohol on YouTube? Is that a thing I'm allowed to show?
That's a good question. I don't think
don't
you would be.
know.
I had elf tits on stream last week and I didn't get in trouble, so, it's...
With a little
it
more
just comes
time, I
down
was going to
to
bring down
how
a
you
crack a
pack it.
bottle of mead, but I didn't get that time.
I must be allowed to show alcohol on YouTube. I've seen people do that.
I'm pretty sure. You just have to, I think you have to tick a few boxes at upload, like content for youth. Are you showing alcohol? Blah, 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 blah.
Oh, I mark all of this as not for kids.
Yeah,
I do not make,
that's
my
the easiest
content is
way.
not for children.
Yeah, I don't think you have anything to worry about then.
I don't think children should be on YouTube in the first place. I mean, I was on the internet as a kid and it ruined me.
Well, I don't think I should be now.
Right, well, we're still waiting on Mr. Steven Channel, but Realm Builder guy,
Yes, sir.
you were billed to me as an advocate for Castles and Crusades.
Yes.
And I was telling you before the stream that when Troll came out and said no politics in games, I was sold, and I bought a bundled 5 copies of the Castles and Crusades Player's Handbook. And this was a while ago. This is what, 2 years ago now? 2.5 years ago this all went down?
It's a while back.
About yeah, something like that.
And I got them. I flipped through it once, lent one to a member of the group. I was planning on running through it, but unfortunately, things just never happened. Life gets in the way of stuff. Adult schedules get in the way of gaming, and I can't convince my online group to switch. And I don't know how I'd switch them over at this point anyway until we start something anew. So. I mainly run 5th edition. I come from 3.5 and 4th edition into 5th. I'm setting myself down. I'm ready to make myself a new setting, and I'm going to use Castles and Crusades. What kind of setting, say low magic, high martial, or somewhere in between, what settings does Castles and Crusades most lend itself to? And feel free to jump in as well, so really.
I mean,
have to be Realm Builder.
Really anything you want.
Right.
I mean, it's core, but I mean, I've called it the best modern edition of Dungeons and Dragons. By modern, I mean when it's a unified D20 mechanic. And the core thesis behind Castles and Crusades came from Steve, who said, "I don't like 3rd edition. if we're gonna create our own game, I want to be able to run it the way I've been running AD&D 1st edition my whole life." And so it's kind of this mixture of AD&D 1st edition with some DNA of 3rd edition in there, like 0 level spells, cantrips.
Yeah.
That's in there, and there are some little things that are call it 3.5 isms, but for the most part,
some quality of life
Yeah, you could call it
improvement?
that.
I hate that term.
Yeah, the fact that Jim Ward worked on this game, he was one of the co-designers in this game. Like, he
May rest
created
in
the
peace.
illusionist class,
Hmm.
and then it got the stamp of approval by Gary Gygax himself, who Trollard Games was publishing at that time. Sold me on it. And then the fact that you can get the older printing as a PDF for free from Trollard Games, I read through it and I went, where has this been my whole life?
Very much
It's been
like an
around
archive of Nephthys kind of vibe.
It's been around
to
for
that.
20
Yeah.
years. But it's definitely...
Am I right in thinking that CNC is like a resurrection of an older property? Wasn't that name floating around?
So there was
80s
the
and
Castles
90s?
and Crusades Society that was around when original Dungeons and Dragons was published.
Mm.
And this is kind of an homage to that. It's the original OSR game because it came out in 2004. Osric came out in 2006. It's the first game system that basically really used the OGL to use the framework of D&D, but make it its own.
Or to sort of reappropriate it into some more
Correct.
Gygaxian
Using
terms,
armor
I guess.
class, all that stuff. It feels very AD&D, but very modern at the same time. So
See, my only real experience of like the older versions of D&D, despite the fact that I flip through the AD&D core books on my desk there from time to time, and I steal ideas from it a lot. But in terms of my experience of the old rule sets, I kind of only get them from things like the original Baldur's Gate or Icewind Dale, and even that second edition. So that's not going back too far either. So that kind of classic gaming approach is it tickles my fancy. But let's just say, for instance, that my group is majority brain rot, young millennials, nearly Zoomers. What's the pitch to them? Because they're all about the like. I've got one guy who is he's very good when he gets into the role play, but he doesn't usually, and he's more about the micromanagement of his numbers. He likes the min-max.
Okay, this is not a min-max game.
I love that.
It's not skills. It's not feats. Now you can add skills and feats. That's in the Castle Keeper's Guide, but you don't need to, and it runs best when not. You can do anything. You can try anything. Like, you are not inhibited at all. The way the core engine works, it's called the Siege engine, and it's either based on a primary or a secondary attribute. Your target numbers, either base number is going to be a 12 or an 18. The Castle Keeper, the GM adds a challenge level, and then that's your target number, and then you roll a d20, add your level, add a modifier, and that's what you got to hit.
So you add your level to the result.
Yep, except for combat. Combat's like standard, so it scales with you. I love the fact it's more dangerous. That's the other thing. If they're looking for something that adds way more danger, character death is way more frequent around the corner.
Well,
there is no balance.
I'm running a 5th edition campaign at the moment that's been going for, I think, coming up 2 years, and there have been many character deaths. I went from being a soft touch DM that was made fun of for not having character deaths to a bit of a. Well, the wife described me as a menace.
Okay.
So I don't have problems killing characters. If there's more danger in this game, we might have issues.
Well, I mean, there's no death saving throw. It's essentially the old ticking clock of down to negative hit points.
Like you're bleeding out, kind of.
Basically.
Yeah.
What, like a negative 10?
Negative 10 is death. But you only start bleeding out at -7. So up till -7, you're basically in a coma. But if you hit -7, then it's ticking and you're gone in 3 rounds. And the other thing is there's no like long rest. Oh, all my hit points are back. No, your natural healing rate is 1 hit point a day.
You see, I like that. I like that a lot. So when that negative hit point, say I'm on 10 HP out of 100, so I'm very wounded. I take 20 damage. Is that just instant death?
Yep.
Yeah. So you don't sort of go to 0 and then you've got like another health bar. It is just gone.
like third edition.
Mm.
Third edition was the same way. It's like you do the negative math, and if it's beyond -10, then that's that.
Yeah, 5th edition's instant death mechanic never really made much sense to me.
No,
I
and
really struggle with that one.
yeah, it's oddly worded, and basically it's a way to discourage you from having it.
If you take double your total HP, you are dead, which means that's never going to happen apart from a level 1, maybe.
Yeah. So if you're asking about the perfect setting, aside from obviously their own setting of Erd, Greyhawk. Original 1983 Greyhawk. That is the setting for Castles and Crusades, because that is the setting that Steve was running his AD&D first edition group in, was Greyhawk for years. And Erd is modeled after Greyhawk in that way.
But now they've got a new setting on the way. Castle Zagig, is that it?
Castle
Is that a
Zagig,
setting?
yes.
It's
It's a micro setting and a
Yes.
mega dungeon.
It is Castle Greyhawk itself, which is
stripped of the copyrighted stuff.
it's the mega dungeon.
Yeah.
Gygax's last work. Sort of.
Yeah, his last polish, I guess, on Castle Greyhawk, Castle Zagag, right?
Zagig? Zagug?
I really don't know if there's an appropriate way to say that, but yeah, I wouldn't call it a setting exactly.
Yeah,
Again,
it's
though,
in a East Mark, which is like a micro.
What's that?
It's in a micro setting called the East Mark.
Right, but isn't it set below the city of Yigsburg?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, which is essentially the city of Greyhawk.
Greyhawk, right?
You squint,
And then
you can see Greyhawk.
Jeez, look at a lot of these nerds with all these names of places.
Yeah, Realm Builder, talked about Gary giving it his stamp of approval. He said it was the actual successor to D&D. When third was coming out, he was like, no, this is what it.
This is the
should have developed.
Spirit lives on here, rather than
that's
over.
most certain. He was full throated about that.
That's something that I'm surprised then that it's not a more well-known game. It's quite well-known now. I mean, most people, if I say Castles and Crusades 2 in this sort of area of thinking, or someone who's tangentially
You'll probably have heard of it.
more involved in RPGs than just casually playing as a player. Like maybe they're a player that is getting a bit too into being a player and wants to try their hand at running a game. They'll have probably heard of Castles and Crusades. But
yeah, I mean, it's been around for 20 years.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's not more well-known, especially when you've got something like Pathfinder out there, which is younger, and just basically rehashed 3.5 for a long time.
Yeah, I've wondered that as well, because I only discovered CNC 5 years ago, when I was becoming disenchanted with 5th edition. Like, I just didn't enjoy running it. And I'm an old, I played AD&D 2nd edition. That's what I grew up on. And somebody said, hey, just get the free player's handbook. And I read through it. I'm like, man, this just feels like D&D should be. And I think the zeitgeist of the time wasn't necessarily in line with what CNC was. So it was, you were either going into that more MMO, Magic the Gathering sphere of min-maxing, computer gaming, feats and skill trees and all that stuff, which this is not that game.
And balanced progression.
Correct. Whereas in Counterbalance, it's not really part of this game, just like with AD&D. That wasn't.
I mean, I'll put it this way. I'm a big fan of low-level characters getting an item or two that just makes them stupidly strong in a certain area. Because I feel it this way, like there needs to be imbalance in the world, whether that's on one side of the scale or the other. And what I've done with my current 5th edition is one of the first treasure hoards they found after clearing out one of the first Dungeons of Tyranny of Dragons before I went off the rails and did my own Tyranny of Dragons because I'm better at it than Watsy, is they found a +1 Frostbrand, which went to the fighter, and they found a great sword flame tongue, which went to the paladin. And what that allowed me to do was up the ante a lot, because they could do damage, but they were squishy as shit. Like, you know, if one wrong roll and they were just done. And that happened to several of the characters. I think we've actually got as many characters in the graveyard for this campaign that I've kept the list of as we actually have now in the party. So, you know, 3 players have lost a character. And I think one of those players, Kai, the baby DM who you've met, Cerulean, I think he's lost 2 or 3 characters. It's just to this one campaign, but this is with them getting these magic item boons on character creation, but they're coming in at low level. I'm not letting them come in high. But having that built into the mechanics, allowing the mechanics to let me run a world rather than an MMO, is something that takes my fancy quite a bit. But again, it's, can I get the brain rot out of the group? And I say that lovingly, you know, I don't say that as a disparagement against Brass Dragon, who is the one of the players and also comes on, or my wife, who is a player. But it's like this expectation that it will run like a video game rather than a world that you're immersed in.
No, this runs as close to AD&D as I've ever experienced outside of AD&D itself.
Do you use one-to-one time, brother?
Do I? I do for downtime.
So it's kind of a hybrid.
Correct. Because I've got a weekly group of people I've been playing role-playing games with for more than 20 years. And we switched to using one-to-one time for downtime, in the sense of they're back from the dungeon or they're back from their wilderness exploration. They're back in town.
So what do you do for a week while...
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, but there are also training rules in CNC. So you have to, for your new level, that's how many weeks you have to train. So if you're going from 2nd to 3rd level, it's 3 weeks of downtime.
You see, I've just shoved in my own gold for XP / training rules into my campaign to try and help the guys who are lower level, who are getting access to good treasure because they're following around these 2 really high level characters, helping them sort of lift themselves out of experience point poverty, so to speak.
Yeah.
And this is something you said before the stream went live, is that 5th edition didn't cater to things you wanted to do, but it seems like CNC, a lot of the homebrew that I've already come up with to try and force 5th edition into being a simulation rather than an RPG is kind of already there.
Yeah, because the XP you get for defeating monsters is lower. You get 1 XP for 1 gold piece.
So you can just do...
Yep.
Is it a hybrid again, or is it one or the other?
No, it's both. I mean, that's how AD&D was run as well, or that's how classic D&D was. You know, XP for gold and for defeating monsters. And then they also have other little optional rules in the Castle Keeper's Guide, like the first time a magic user of any type, a spellcaster, be an illusionist, a wizard, a cleric, uses a spell, they get experience points for using a spell for the very first time.
That's cool.
You can also do story beat stuff or anything like that if you want to. It works. But the core is defeating monsters, getting XP for gold. And then you also gain experience for magic items if you keep them and use them over an extended period of time, is how it's worded.
So you've got multiple sort of passive experience revenues.
Correct. But it all leans into rewarding exploration.
You see, that I like, because a lot of the time I have to sort of like pinpoint areas of interest on the map and say, here's where everything is going down. But no, I
I have a quick question. I don't want to leave that very far behind, but experience points for gold, you say? So very much like AD&D, but all the other things added in. What is the what percentage of a group's experience would tend to be straight XP for gold compared, when balanced against everything else, does it end up feeling like?
And that's really down to the person running the game.
Indeed. And for you in particular, then.
For me, because I also like domain play, and that is baked into the game in probably the most interesting way possible.
Interesting.
That it makes them need to utilize treasure in a more interesting way other than I just have it.
Okay.
I would say probably for me, it makes the gold for XP probably makes about 50% of the XP that they gain. And that can be, jewelry, anything like that, sell it.
Sure, anything with a monetary value that's not magic.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
So this gold for XP, I'm guessing you spend the gold coin to get the XP point.
No, the way that works, the way it's technically written is when you bring the coin back to a safe place, then you get the experience points. Other items like gems, artwork, weapons, you would get the XP once you sell that and turn it into coin.
So the reason I ask is the way I've been running my goal for XP, like zombie, this monster that I've mashed together, is to sort of help with balance, is to remove a gold piece in exchange for an XP point. Because I don't want you to be running around with tens of thousands of gold, but I don't mind a few thousand gold pieces going on some XP. Does that make sense? So that's not...
Yeah.
So there's lower XP in general. Does the game flow like, let's say we go on one adventure, level 2, we clear out a nest of goblins and we find, 100 gold pieces each. Are we likely level 3 when we get back? Or and
No.
So it is quite a low rate of progression then.
Yeah, the XP progression charts are very, very similar to AD&D, and classes level at different speeds.
Good.
There's not a single XP chart. Every class has a different XP progression chart. So again, your rogue will level up initially faster. The slowest will be your wizard and illusionist.
Very good. I mean, I prefer that because it means that the magic user is more invested in their character's progression and trying not to be squished.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to be a weak little magic user to get to that sort of godlike levels of power you might see a Raceling using, for example. I still need to start Dragon to Spring Dawning. I still haven't gotten around to it. I'm still upset over Sturm. Sturm! Oh, it's too soon. Someone in the chat, I think it was actually the couple of adventurers, welcome by the way, said I was flirting with playing something other than 5th. I've just bought Traveller. I mean, I've been flirting with playing a lot of it. Yeah, ooh. I've been on a real sci-fi kick lately, feeding my Stellaris addiction at the moment. So
which Traveller?
The original.
Ooh.
Classic, the Black Books. I spoke to Bill the Dungeon Delver about where I would go and get it. It was on sale at the time for 20 quid. I turned to the wife and said, "We're getting this," and she kind of gave me a look and went, "Okay." And so I spent some of my hard-earned pounds on a print-on-demand version of Traveller, which I've been reading through when the opportunity presents itself. Because good God, life is hell at the moment. And I'm looking forward to it. I love the fact that you can die in character creation. I don't understand why people don't like that. It sounds like a brilliant idea and a way of like risk and reward. Maybe I am bloodthirsty. Maybe I am a menace. Maybe I am the problem. So you ever play C&C Cerulean? Or no?
Not played. Owned, but not played.
Oh, yeah, well, same here. Owned, but not played.
Couple of years back, I did go ahead and pick up on it. I mean, I own, of course, the 3 core books, but quite a number of others. And then, of course, I've got I've got stuff on the way from them out of Kickstarters of late as well. That I'm very much looking forward to. One of those being the Castle Zagig, which we talked
Yes.
about earlier.
I
got in on
only realized Castle Zagig was going on at the moment it finished.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you get in time, or were you trying?
No, I couldn't afford to at the moment anyway. But I'll
Me
pick it
either,
up
but I
as and
still
when
bought it.
arrive.
Yeah.
Right, Realm Builder guy. You have to make a move, but I do thank you very much for coming on, sir. It's a
Yeah, this
shame
was
that
fun.
Stephen hasn't arrived to be here at the same time. Hopefully he's coming. Hopefully, because I named the stream after him. But no, go ahead. Tell us where we can find you, man. I'll grab your links.
Sure. I mean, you can find me on X. I have to actually look at it because I don't know my handle. It's at Realm Builder RPG, or on YouTube, Realm Builder Guy. Just put it into the YouTube search, and you should be able to find me.
Nice. Well, no, you have a great rest of the evening. Well, afternoon for you, I suppose.
Gotta
I
go
keep
pick up the
spelling
kids from
realm
school.
as realm. Realm.
Realm Builder, good to see you again.
Yeah, same here, bud. Take it easy. Thank you, guys.
Cheery bye, man. Have yourself a great one. And there's his other rig in the chat there. I hope that's him anyway. It'd be embarrassing if I just promoted somebody that wasn't him.
I almost did that earlier with Jeff Easley.
Oh yes, I guess another Kickstarter that I couldn't really afford to get into, but
Right.
I saw the one art with like the big flaming dragon coming down,
Right.
and that looked awesome. I'm thinking of the right thing, right?
Should be.
He's got
If you're talking about my post from earlier, yeah, that is what was on the cover of it.
I've barely been on X.
I
I scroll a lot, but I'm not really interacting or posting all that much.
Mm.
I'm just tired.
The thing I find interesting about this particular Kickstarter for an art book is that I didn't really realize this. Easley's never put out one.
Really?
And he's an Elmore or Caldwell or anybody else, Parkinson. He's prolific. He's got so much work. It would have been hard to choose the works that were going to go in it. I should think.
On the topic of Elmore, because look, the Castles of the Crusades talk is great, but obviously we don't play it, or we don't play it yet, and so we can't really talk about something we don't know.
I'm a supporter. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that we can talk about with you here is a little situation that happened with Mr. Larry Elmore himself.
Larry?
Where he was turned down from doing Dragonlance art because, quote unquote, they wanted digital art because it gave more detail.
I think the actual wording was, it has more pop.
Yes, it was.
When I read that, my comment was, "Who said this? I want to talk to them."
You talk with your words, not your fists.
Well, I have words.
The beard just
many
consumes them.
More pop. That's like, buying the painting because it goes with the carpet in your living room. Pop. What does that even mean?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like digital art. I know some digital artists which are very, very talented.
Sure.
But to turn down Larry Elmore?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the post. When you type in Larry Elmore, it's just loads and loads of people using his art to get likes, some of which is me. There's Ben Rogue Caliber. Yeah, I can't find it, but it's like the side-by-side comparison of
the two.
Of the two, where you've got like, and then you've
got. Was it a
Elmore.
Yodano post?
In the what post?
Yodano.
Was it him? I will go and as I say, I've been so
out. If it wasn't him, he commented on it. It might have been a Kevin Lamb. Actually, I'm thinking now that it might be a Kevin Lamb.
Well, there's some people being eaten by dragons. There's some more people being eaten by dragons. This is Yodano's page. I've got to be. I can't share my Twitter feed on YouTube because of the amount of fantasy art that's on it and just how many titties there are. You know, which is great for me, but like I said to you in the erotic art. Wait, no, you weren't around for the erotic art.
For the which?
You weren't here for the erotic art conversation, were you?
Was that last week?
Was that last week? Yeah. What day are we on? Anyway, what I said to the Richard Witters and to whoever else was with me at the time, I honestly don't remember my own name at this point. I think it might be Kevin Lamb because I'm not seeing it from was that sword and sorcery is sexy, just inherently. And I don't really think that we can count Lord of the Rings as sword and sorcery. But like things like Conan and Elric and that I would say is right. Okay. X is having a meltdown.
Oh. So I'm going back through.
Oh, there's the Jeff Easley post I was talking about. So I might open that in a tab in a moment. Oh, there's a Feifel artwork. The Space Elf. There's been an infestation of Space Elves lately, Feifel. I'm happy to see them. There is a drawing tablet behind me on the wife's desk that we got and never really used. And I've been very tempted to have a go myself, but also I can barely handle the most basic features of human anatomy.
Are you talking about like a Wacom tablet or something digital?
It's a digital drawing tablet.
Sure. I've got one of those close at hand.
Just do some little doodles on, but they would be doodles because I am not an artist. I could barely string a sentence together, and people for some reason call me something of a writer. No, it's not Kevin Lamb either. But you and I both know the what we were talking about there. We've got the eyes popping. Oh, you got it.
I found it.
Yeah.
Can I share my screen?
Yes, as long as it doesn't get me down the bottom there. And
it's gonna have copyrighted art in it. You tell me.
Yeah, it's fine. It's the titties I'm worried about.
Let me
down the bottom. There's all those next to your camera and microphone controls. There's a share button.
It's like taking up most of the screen here. That looks better. And then share screen.
Nice. Space Elves will be around for a few more weeks.
Screen 2. That's the one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Apparently I can choose to share it. Here we are. There we go. I can put us down here. Look. There we are.
Hey, look at us.
Okay.
We're tiny. We're little.
So I'm going to remove the chat just for a minute, just so we can see what's going on here.
Mm-hmm. So it's really just a fantastic comparison, isn't it? And so Kevin says at Gary Conn Artist booth, I learned that Larry Elmore was willing to do the covers for the Dragonlance trilogy, but was told that they wanted a digital artist because digital art has more. So instead of a cover like the one on the left, we got the one on the right. And
yeah,
it's not.
It's more washed out.
It is. So color-wise, it's less distinct.
So this is the end of the last home that they're outside of.
It should be. That's what I would guess. Yeah, it seems to be up in the trees.
Who's the gal in front?
She is the daughter of Theros Iron.
Right. Okay, that's fair enough then. I can see that.
Okay.
I say, I still haven't read Spring Dawning, so
there we go.
Let's see.
Yeah.
But I was worried that they'd have done the usual thing with redheads, and that would be Tika.
No, not at all. And the there was another post on Kevin's timeline that showed just Tannis.
Yes, that's what I was looking for.
The detail on it is so poor. I don't know if I'm wondering, honestly, if they weren't shooting a physical photograph of hard work. And when I say hard work, I mean like a physical object.
Yeah.
They took digital to digital. It makes me wonder if the printer got a low resolution version of the artwork. It makes me wonder that. Speaking as a graphic designer who understands, pixel depth and DPI and PPI, et cetera, that doesn't look to me like it was probably the original art. And I'm guessing here. I'm giving you my ideas of why there would be
why there was discrepancy in resolution.
Okay, I'm going to be dead honest with you. It's sloppy.
No, be honest. It's very. I agree.
And I feel like, certain things there seem more clear, like the dragon in the background. But give me a second.
I think I found the one that we were talking about, or I found one that's close enough. Here we are. I'm going to take yours down here and bring this one up, if it lets me.
So I don't have that one. What I do have are the two that came before it, and
here you go. Hopefully, chat is still going because I've had it down for a while now. But here is the one I meant, where it's going to be a bit bad on the stream, but you can just about see.
Well, that's better. That's better than I was looking at in the larger.
There is Tanis on the new book, and even the hand and the way the bow is very flat. It's not terrible, still far better than I could do. But then you've got like the original Larry Elmore art.
It's better than I could do today. My hand is way out of practice.
Look at the amount of like detail on the Larry Elmore stuff.
True, and yes, they probably should have taken him up on it, because they would have sold so many more books just for the cover.
Oh, the Elven Maid is in. Hello, Elven Maid.
Emmy, how are you? Because we're not going to get that many more books or professional pieces out of Larry. He paints whatever he wants, whenever he wants, and
I
available.
Thoroughly enjoy Larry Elmore's work. To me, it is quintessential fantasy art. Of course, you could say like, oh, Frank Frazetta is really like, his voluptuous women, etc. And then you've got like the Louis Royo, who I also really enjoy, and I often call the master of like fantasy and sci-fi art.
Okay.
But there's just something about Elmore that is just quintessentially, classically fantasy. And no one really tops him for me. Because he's got lovely ladies, but he's also got this down-to-earth armor on them a lot of the time. I've seen the bikini armor as well. But it's just the colors, the vibrancy. That's just good.
He's got range. So yeah, an absolute master of the genre you mentioned, Rosetta. Genius. And couldn't fault anybody for having the opinion that he is the best fantasy artist of all time. I would say he's easily the best sword and sorcery artist of all time.
You know who probably the best fantasy artist of all time is?
Who's that?
J.R.R. Tolkien.
His drawings?
His drawings and his writing. Like if you were to take art as just a whole, of literature, of pencil, brush, and just a pure imagination. considering that Tolkien sort of came out of his own. Tolkien and Howard. Howard? Yeah, Howard. For some reason, I said Howard and then Lee jumped into my head, but I was thinking of the Civil War general for a split second. I don't know why. Robert E. Lee rather than Robert E. Howard.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think that Howard and Tolkien were very much... They were standing on the shoulders of mythology, but in terms of representing that as modern fantasy, like the birth of modern fantasy, they were there at the genesis of it. And so... For me, Tolkien is the greatest because everything we've done since kind of springs forth from those two men. You could argue Lovecraft, but I think those two men in particular were the synthesis of those two is what gives you sword and sorcery. Because I don't think Conan really qualifies as sword and sorcery. I think it qualifies mostly, wait for it, it qualifies mostly as myth. If you think about it, Conan's journeys, from what I've been reading, especially that first one where he's trying to rape Atali.
You're talking about the elephant?
No, that's the Tower of the Elephant is where he steals or tries to steal a jewel.
Okay.
The first one is where he's chasing the daughter of the frost giant across the snow, intent on ravishing her. And you sort of get these like mythological elements to it. And I think it is sword and sorcery, but I think it is still mainly myth. I was actually speaking to the Damnedest Bastard about this a while back, because I was working on a bit of a script that I need to get back to at some point. I'm assuming you know who that is.
He's a hell of a source for that particular subject.
Well, I went up to him, it's like, what did Howard know about mythology? Because I don't know Howard that well. I know Tolkien much better. And I was just asking these questions, and I was like, you know what, I think Howard was trying to represent myths before he knew what fantasy was.
Fair. I mean, if you look at the way that he approached the world that Conan inhabits, it is an age undreamt of. It is mythological. In nature. It might as well be Asgard or Jotunheim for that matter. I mean, it's
well, Cool Cross is there in chat saying most of his lockdown was spent reading Robert E. Howard. That's a good way to spend lockdown.
Yeah, right.
There's two things I want to say. Speaking of art, the Elven Maiden actually drew my wife recently. I don't know if you saw that. Very nice. But
can we see it now?
We'll tell you what, we'll do that now. It's a bikini piece, so don't get mad at me, YouTube. When I show off my wife in an anime style. There it is. Because I really like Emmy's art when she was using like vectors was cool and very gritty. She's now got herself a drawing tablet, and she's just come out swinging. Where's the thing? Need to share the thing. That one. There we are. That is what she has done for the wife.
I'm sorry, did you say that Emmy has no training?
She didn't have no training, I don't believe. I think she's doodled before, but this is her second piece that she's drawn by hand.
Okay.
Or with a stylus, I should say, because she was using sort of vector programs before, not AI, but like taking a line and then lining it up. And
that is a practiced hand.
But no, she's the stuff that she has done is really, really nice. We do have a Rumble rant to get to now that I've shown off my wife in a bikini. Right, so Jeff from Denkar. He says over on Rumble, and again, I appreciate this, mate, because you're helping me pay the bills for the streaming software that we are using here. You say, the new art is something I would call a war crime. Makes me glad I just scored 2E Forgotten Realms box set, the Horde box set, and the Throne of Bloodstone, all filled with superior art. So, yeah, I think that you'd probably agree with that, Cerulean. I think the first time you were on my show, the soul of fantasy was used as a term.
Yeah, the artwork. Yeah, being the well, I think in strictest terms, what I said was it is the soul of the game, meaning fantasy role-playing games. They changed things. It really crystallizes your imagination, or a person's imagination, around what you're going to be dealing with in terms of a subject. And it sparks the imagination, it sparks the creativity in a way that for very many people words can't do. Words on a page can't do. You know, and two, honestly, still art can be much more, I think, in some ways, much more compelling than motion art.
Yeah.
Film.
Hey, look at when you say crystallize and capturing like the essence or the soul of fantasy. Let's put it back to the Alari Elmore being refused to on Dragonlance. That is the pop. I think the reason it pops more is because there's soul to it. There's someone that's actually wanting to paint these things or has something in their own psyche being spoke to at a much deeper level, and has an ability to transfer into ink and paint.
You know, Larry's preternatural. I'm not going to say that whoever, you know, the artist is, and I was just looking for this information actually, whoever this artist is didn't want to do what they were doing. They did. Larry will readily tell you, all I do is draw and paint. And it's literally, I mean, it has literally been true since he was like 3, 4, 5, you know. His mother would bring home the shopping and the brown paper sacks that the groceries would come in. She would cut those apart and make them flat. That was what they could afford for him to have drawing paper. And he would draw those things. And we're talking, you know, 5-year-old kid, until there was just no room left. And just draw and 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 draw. That was Larry. Absolutely amazing natural talent. And he tells me that too, that his dad could draw pretty good. I think his mom did a little drawing as well.
See, my father and grandfather are fantastic artists, but I just do not have a drop of it in me.
You didn't get the gene.
No, but I'm also, and I say this with the utmost respect for the both of them, I am a hell of a lot smarter than both. I honestly, they cannot do numbers. They can hardly write, but they can graft. My grandfather was a coal miner. My father was a mechanic and a lorry driver and a bus driver. And they,
did you say draft?
Graft, like really hard labor.
Oh,
is that a graft?
Okay.
G-R-A-F-T. Is that a thing over in the States? Grafting?
No, that word has a very different connotation in the States. I thought you said draft with a D as in David, meaning
no.
technical drawing.
No, but they drew a lot of buildings, a lot of trains. But my grandfather has, like, when you dig through his stuff when he's not looking, he's got drawings and paintings of flowers and ducks and fish, and it's just incredible the amount of ability that's there. But but before we get onto that, whilst I'm going to ask you this next question quick, and then I've got someone else to bring in.
Yes, sir.
You think Mr. Elmore would like to come have a chat here one night? Don't want to be presumptuous, but good God,
Yeah,
that's cool.
that's a heavy prospect, honestly. The technology is a huge barrier to that.
That's yeah.
Because all he does is draw and paint. With great help, he was able to take part in a sort of an online conversation that I had with he and Jeff Easley and Keith Parkinson's son, Nick. But it took a lot. It took a lot.
That for such a legendary name. But while we sort of and ah and dream of great things, the halfling looks a tad different. I think he's trying to up your beard game.
Well, this beard matches my beard. It's nothing compared to Cerulean Retz's beard. It's just not.
You do it too much honor, sir. Hello.
Howdy. So I do exist. I've beaten up the halfling and stolen the very comfortable coffee house.
So you're fresh off the Gobstein train?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we did kind of mostly wrap that up. There's some lingering questions that we might answer. That's more a question for Jack McCarthy. But yes.
Well, he's around in chat. If he wants to come in, he's more than welcome to. But did you win?
Kind of. Yes, I turned evil and I sacrificed an angel. And
good. Yeah, average Saturday night.
Yeah. I mean, I can switch to that. Give me a second, and I will be evil Quinto for you.
Evil,
so that you can see that.
Evil Quinto.
Yeah, evil Quinto.
Is it Quinto Evil Barrel now?
It should be. It really, really should be. So this is my post Gobstein evil overlord halfling win, and I will feed you coffee. I'm no longer willing to just provide tea and be nice. You will drink the coffee.
Where did the NPC based on me end up? Is he dead?
No. Well, we didn't resolve the overland stuff, so he's hanging out on the overland. So in the under dungeon area where I was able to sacrifice the angel, we kind of resolved that. I think the dwarf wants to kill me, but that's not going to happen because I can run away. Now that I have an angel mech, well, I turned the angel into my own mech.
What?
Kind of like Eva style. Yeah, it's complicated. Magic was involved.
When we last spoke, you were making a trading empire. I was helping you with ports. When did we start making mechs out of angel parts?
Well, the trading empire was really a bit of a... well, I mean, it wasn't a trading empire, but I was also dealing weapons. I was just doing that kind of on the side. And I always kind of wanted to bring a little chaos. So that's why I was distributing weapons to both sides. And
that's just the way of the British, mate.
Yeah, I mean, you're familiar with it. So after all of that happened, I decided that I wanted to get rid of the angel because it had been annoying to me. And as a servant of the dark gods of Hawk, I went for it.
You know what? Fair play. As a good aligned person, I'm gonna have to put a stop to you, but fair play.
Go for it. You can totally try to put a stop to me.
I'd like to see you try. So the new wizard then, the Marinus. What is this? The new?
No, Marinus. So my my standard character name that I used forever was Marin. Marinus is just a Latinization of that. Also, it aligns with what is potentially my patron saint. So I say with the puppet of an angel killer on.
Your patron saint.
We'll find out. I'm.
Oh, you're not talking. You're not talking actual.
No.
You're being
real life. Well, I'm Orthodox catechumen, so I'm gonna have to be baptized. But yes,
Orthodoxy.
So we'll find out.
Right. So the proto-Protestants.
I would actually consider the Catholics as the proto-Protestants.
Nah, mate, we're the originals. Look, we don't do politics. Religion's something completely different.
What about political religion?
What religion?
What about political religion?
No, those are banned. They cause too much damage. No, I'm happy for you. Happy for you. Good. Congrats. I hope the baptism goes exceptionally well for you. Where were we? We were talking about lots of things before we got distracted by you sacrificing angels. Always back to being a wizard.
I'm back to my out of character self.
Right. Tell you what. Let's bring some chitty chats into this. Let's ask. I have a question. Q&A is approaching. Stick it in chat, and we'll do some Q&As for a bit. It does appear that the man of the hour won't be joining us, unfortunately. But hey, Sarah, you win some, you lose some. It's not that big of a deal. Hello,
That is
Theodore.
sad because Theo's here.
What you gonna say? Something?
Oh, no, I was going to say that it's sad because I really wanted to arrange a cage fight between Macrease and Steve and Kelsey to see who our overlord would be.
That's a point. Kelsey is in the lady who does Shadow Dark.
Correct.
See, I would love to have a chat with her at some point, but it's one of those things where there's plenty of people that I know. Well, I've got avenues that I could get people onto the show, but it's I talk a lot more about overall philosophies to do with the genre or ways to play the game or games rather than specific games themselves or specific creators themselves. This was a bit of an exception. It was going to be a bit of an exception because it was arranged for me by a very good friend. But I much prefer talking about the underpinning concepts.
Yeah, I agree.
You could totally do that with creators too.
I
will discuss
understand
the underpinning philosophies.
Oh, I understand completely. But when you get to... We're in a very small pond. It's a very small pond. There are lots of big fish in this very small pond. Like the TTRPG scene, especially the OSR, if you want to call it that scene, is incredibly tiny. And you've got, 2 or 3 very big fish floating around. One's Kelsey. One would be Stephen Chenault, I would think. And you've got Rob Kuntz, who I would classify as a big fish. And I think you're about to have Clownfish TV's Neon come through as something of a big fish with the game engine they're working on, the adventure engine, which Graph Paper is designing for them. So I reckon that, you're about to see more and more big fish come onto the scene. And I think there's going to be a lot of, not war, so to speak, because I'm a fan of rising tides lifting all boats, etc. But there's going to come a time of strife between all of these different names. And maybe we'll see something of a console war, but very minuscule, happening between all the games that are coming out. And I'm still going to be over here stuck in 5th edition. Do you think I'm wrong? Am I being too negative?
I don't think so. I mean, okay, yes and no. It really just depends, because one of the things that happened, like with Kelsey, is she brought a lot of the 5th edition gamers, the 5e people, into the OSR. So with Clownfish, what Neon will probably do is drag a bunch of people that stopped role-playing years ago and just remembered, hey, this is a cool thing, because he has this massive audience, and he'll drag them into the OSR. So our pond will continue to get bigger. It's just crowded. I'm not sure it's exactly how it's gonna pan out. Yeah.
And of course, the danger is, as you bring in these new folks with Shadow Dark, you'll get sort of a critical role phenomenon where you start diluting the soul of the genre. Wouldn't you say so, Cerulean?
I don't know if I would.
Oh, really?
Diluting the soul.
Okay.
Making it, too commercial, too produced, too
No.
slick?
So yes, in a sense, but when
Too
you
groupy.
maybe, but when let's put it this way, I like some parts of Critical Role,
Mhm.
which is something that gets me into trouble on No Cognito. But there are parts of Critical Role I like.
Agreed.
However, I don't consider much of Critical Role to be true blue fantasy. True blue, get it? Because it's cerulean. But there is for me a kind of line around the genre, and some sci-fi can be fantasy. But I think there's times where it becomes, when fantasy becomes all things to all men, it ceases to be anything. And a lot of this newer approach to fantasy where we say, oh, it's fantastical, so why isn't it completely alien to us, rather than just rural England with some hobbits in it? Well, the reason it's not completely alien as a traditional fantasy enjoyer is because it's not about being alien. It's about being a representation of stuff that's already happened. It's all of these myths and mythologies given back to you. So it's giving you something that your forefathers, as in your human ancestry, not just your English or your Arabian or whatever ancestry, but a human ancestry has given you. Right. And when you try and alienize it too much, because some of it can be okay, you start stripping away the very human elements of it, where rather than making the normal seem mystical, which is what our ancestors did, you start having to bring in extraterrestrial, so to speak, stuff. And I think a lot of that will come in with newer fans, so to speak. And I'm not really sure where those lines are. I'm not sure if they're in the same position all the way around, or if they're a squiggly border type thing. But it's like pornography. I know it when I see it.
Okay. Is there a question there?
I'm just musing.
Okay.
I'm very tired.
I think Fifel had a good response to you too.
How well a movement can absorb new people and ideas while keeping its core elements intact is congruent to how healthy that movement is. I'm not so sure this movement's all that healthy as of late, but I would like to be proven wrong.
Yeah. How do you define healthy?
I am supposed to be a positive influence in the community.
Yeah. I think more people growth isn't always the exact recipe for healthy.
Indeed. To be honest, everyone in the chat is at the moment saying they need to check out Amazing Gaming Productions stuff. I actually agree. I keep meaning to myself. And he is always plugging my stuff. So what I'm going to do at the moment is go to my Twitter here. Guys, in the chat, that is Amazing Game Productions X account. Go give him a follow. That's probably your best bet if you want to see more of his stuff. He should have over 1,000 followers, I would hope, but he's only on 921. And there are a few of you watching on various platforms, so you could go and make that 1,000 or close to quite quickly.
I cannot. I've already
followed.
Yep, I'm already following too.
Well, I tried.
There you go. Very worth a plug.
Tara the Elephant.
Okay.
Tara the Elephant. We brought it up before. That's a very extraterrestrial fantasy story.
Yeah, that's so existentially godlike that.
But he's talking about aliens, other planets, angels.
Right. Any fantasy that's sufficiently godlike is indistinguishable from science fiction.
Any science fiction that is sufficiently godlike is indistinguishable from fantasy.
Vice versa. True.
Yes.
So it's a wibbly wobbly ball of stuff. But there are certain things that when you put it into that wibbly wobbly ball, just kind of feel off.
I get you.
Like spaceships.
Right. So
they feel off.
I can give you a cinematic example of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
going to the theater in the last few years and going to Asgard, thanks to Mr. Hemsworth and company. So that is what they're presenting there is definitively technology that's sufficiently advanced is indistinguishable from magic. That's exactly what they're presenting. And so it still feels like fantasy when you're there. It feels like fantasy when Thor is on Earth, but then later during Ragnarok, when they're all aboard a spaceship, there's a twang of discordance there for a minute.
Discord is the right word.
Mm.
Discord is exactly the right word. It doesn't harmonize.
Yeah, I mean, and it certainly is a change in the music at that point.
Yeah.
And the music from that point does okay, but at that moment in time, it's a discordant note as it changes.
Like Warhammer 40k, I would call that fantasy in space. Yes, they're spaceships, but they're also fighting each other with massive swords and magic and all the rest of it. And there's demons and hell powers, and so I would call that sort of fantasy in space. Star Wars, fantasy in space.
Yeah,
magic space wizards is the meme.
Yeah, I could buy that as a designator. Space opera, of course, has been applied many times, but fantasy in space, you got knights with swords and
fighting evil knights with
there's
swords.
even crossbow in there
with the bowcaster.
There's a lot of that's easily fantasy. I mean, and it follows the hero's journey prototype, the model,
the objectively best story structure.
Sure, agreed.
So how would you guys feel about the expedition to the Barrier Peaks then? How does that fit? Yes, no.
I'm not familiar.
It's the D&D module that results in everyone discovering that there's a spaceship, and it was written by Gary Gygax.
No. Or was it? Are you sure it wasn't Dave Arneson?
I am pretty sure it was Gary who wrote that one. Dave Arneson did the thing where his people, like the players, kind of fell into Blackmore too, which was kind of weird.
Well, yeah, Arneson did Earthshaker, I think it was. So they both had a there was an underlying current of that sort of thing going on in both of their writings, honestly. And I've never played Expedition, and I never ran Expedition, and honestly, I've never read all of Expedition. I've had a lot of people tell me about it, and receiving that in a friend's narrative never has sat well with me. I might think differently if I took the time to read through the whole thing, and anybody who calls me heretic because I haven't out of the old school, I care.
There's also the robot enemies that are in advanced D&D in a lot of those modules.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's not the core of the game.
No,
and super beginning, you had all the Mars stuff from John Carpenter in there too.
Carter.
Like I say, there's a certain messy crossover that you can get away with.
Yeah,
but
there is.
It has to harmonize, and I think using the example that Cerulean gave, when it sort of twangs, you can go, I'm very much a fan of singular universe. Don't like multiverses. Don't mind planar travel, but I don't like multiverses. I don't mind a bit of cosmic Cthulhu-y horror, but if you're going to take my plate mail, sword-wielding knight on horseback, and suddenly he's being kidnapped out of Baldur's Gate and put on a spaceship with dragons flying around, going through several different parts of the multiverse, and then he's got a parasite in him, and then the spaceship crashes, and now he's on a space adventure, I'm going to have some questions. And that's Baldur's Gate 3. So that is a discordant moment, because suddenly you're on this spaceman spaceship in your fantasy RPG, and it's not working for me at all. But if you wanted to introduce a Nautiloid or a bit of a Mind Flayer spaceman thing and imply that there was worlds out there more advanced than the world you're on, that could kind of work. But I don't know. I always feel like you should have more of a mystical firmament setting, rather like a Tolkien singing the world into existence setting than a Big Bang and there being lots of different planets with different people on. But I don't mind it necessarily. But I prefer there to be sort of a cutoff point.
This book, and so they're in the appendix N of the AD&D DMG. A lot of great authors, a lot of great science fiction / fantasy authors are listed there. And I'll say science fiction because some of them really. One of them in particular who graced both of those genres with aplomb was Poul Anderson. And this book here, The High Crusade, is very interesting for what you're talking about. You notice the spaceship in the background.
Yeah.
It's fantastic read. I mean, it's nobody's hard read, right?
Yeah.
And it interestingly, it's not fantasy. It really is science fiction, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, the idea of what if aliens invaded medieval Europe is a cool concept. That's that.
Yes.
That's that.
Pretty much.
However,
Yes.
medieval Europe invades alien world is a little bit more far-fetched. I think the issue is my suspension of disbelief has certain limiters. And I've gone over this before in videos on my channel where the reason that the Heroes Feast artwork that was produced for D&D 2024 is terrible is because it implies many different variables to maintain suspension of disbelief that it wouldn't otherwise imply elsewhere. And I think when you start asking a reader, just as an example, to believe in more nodes, more variables on the pinboard, and they're already got a certain stress tension of disbelief, something along there is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. So I think you're willing, you can keep putting ingredients in, but somewhere along the way you're going to find someone that doesn't want those raisins. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does.
Makes sense to me.
It mostly does. I probably come across a little bit as supporting the sci-fi in my fantasy, but I really don't. I don't like it either. I just like throwing you guys questions.
Oh yeah, Devil's Advocate is very handy to have.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Poul Anderson's stuff was awesome. Also, the original Star Trek Klingons kind of did the medieval straight to space travel thing because a ship landed on their planet and they just took it over, which is the same thing that they did with the Terran Empire. Well, that they changed it, but that was one of the original things with the Klingons. But then the Terran Empire did that with the Vulcans. They just killed the Vulcans and took their scout ship. So that's where the mirror universe comes from.
I'm working on a bit of a sci-fi setting at the moment for when I start running a little bit of Traveller on the side, and it's space Romans in space.
Okay.
Because the whole idea, I shan't get into it too much, but what if the Romans didn't fall and just carried on and eventually had space flight? And it's like, what would that look like? So I am having these kind of like historical fantasy settings merge with space flight's cool. However, having the god of the harvest being an alien is a bit weird. I mean, I get why people would do it because ancient aliens, but I think it's very important for in a fantasy world for a pantheon to have its own unique power, its own unique identity, and to actually be a spiritual essence in fantasy. They might be pretty laid back, they might be very far removed, or they could be very involved, but I think terrestrializing your gods and goddesses kind of lessens their impact. Like the moment, I'll put it this way. For me, gods and goddesses are set dressing, or they are ultimate bad guys. if you have an Ariok, for example, be too involved with no real payment on Elric's behalf, Ariok loses his mystique. And there's something about knowing that a god has gone through the same evolutionary process on a different world as us that makes me go, are we Mormons now? Yeah, it's just they lose mystique if they are simply alien beings rather than higher powers. Am I hitting any chords?
You are, and here's why. You use the word mystique.
Yeah. You take the fantasy out of fantasy and you're done.
Mystique is the essence of fantasy.
Mm.
Science fiction is the essence of the fantastical that's very explained.
Reverse the polarity of the neutron flow. Or whatever.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, sure, and you know, and the ones, of course, you use funny words like that, and there are going to be geeks lined up at convention who are going to say you did it wrong. So they know they've got to, like, the audience is fairly sophisticated at this point. You can't just make up shit. You got to have some science to go behind it, and you don't have to do that with magic. You don't have to do that with gods. At least in the way that you're presenting them. And that's the difference. Mystique, mysteriousness. It's the problem I have with magic in D&D.
Yes.
It's too codified. It's too...
Exactly that.
It's too explained. It's actually in a particular crusade of mine is to make magic mysterious again.
It's the same problem I've got with cosmic horror, because everyone's all. I hate mind flayers. Do people know that I don't like mind flayers yet?
No one knows that. We've kept it a secret.
It's because they're supposed to be an unknowable horror, but I know the most about this unknowable horror than anything else. And it sort of removes, instead of mystique, it removes the fear of the unknown, because I know exactly what a mind flayer is. They eat brains and it's dumb. They eat brain and give brain to bigger brain in jar in back room. It's silly. Right, we're on 10:30. You guys go ahead and plug yourselves. I'll call it a little bit sooner than usual. But yes, Savo, your comment there is exactly why we need to have another chat about Space Rome. Because I've been thinking more and more about it. And maybe you'll like my version of Space Elves that I'm putting into Space Rome. Let's go ahead and grab the couple of adventurous couple. Or my grandest champion. Go ahead and plug yourself.
Okay, so I can be found on the X, or the formerly known as Twitters, as Two of Adventurers. Please come by and give me a follow, and I will likely offend you.
Hey,
I've been hanging out with the bros too much, so yeah.
Oh no, that means it's only a matter of time before they find me. Oh, I'm doomed. Right, and of course, Cerulean.
And you may find me as Cerulean Rex on YouTube, as Cerulean_Rex on X, and the Cerulean Rex on Facebook. And you know, if you're gonna send like a message spell, make sure that make sure the magic is blue when you describe it, and I'll get that.
See, I always describe my magic as red.
Do you?
I like red. And yet green is the best dragon. And on that note, gentlemen, thank you very much for for God's sake. We got a rumble rant right at the last second. Jeff from Denkar for $2 dues. Thank you very much, sir. Personally, if it comes to sci-fi fantasy, I prefer settings like Rifts or Star Wars. Go big or go home. Great one to end it on. We'll end it there. Thanks very much.